Greetings and welcome to the What's Right show. Giddy up, let's go. We've got lots to discuss today. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, good to be here as always. My email, if you'd like to reach out to me, sam@whatsrightshow.com. I read all of those myself personally. And of course, on X, formerly known as Twitter, @whatsrightsam is where you can find me. Now, we've had two big shootings here in the last 24 hours or so. The one in Reno, don't know a lot about it. Just appears to be a guy who went to a hotel there, a resort there, and opened fire in the valet area. And three people, unfortunately, were killed. So we'll get more on this as time goes on. A lot more coming to light about yesterday's events in New York City, however. And here, and again, we don't name shooters. If you're a mass shooter, we're not going to give out your name. I sometimes I slip and I do that, but I just, as a general rule here, do not want to do it. So this young man, 27 years old, we quickly found out apparently was from Las Vegas, Nevada. Don't know if you've heard of that place. People have even disclosed his address. So he's right here from town. And apparently he got into his car and drove through Colorado, through Nebraska, through New Jersey, and arrived in Midtown Manhattan Monday afternoon. This was a mammoth cross-country trip, as police are describing it. Went to 345 Park Avenue. This is in the heart of Midtown Manhattan, where all the big skyscrapers are. Parked his BMW, his SUV, around the corner, and just walked right across the city plaza. Now, this is the point where one of the interesting developments of all this occurred, and it was brought to us by courtesy of CNN. This guy is walking across the plaza, appears actually pretty nicely dressed, is carrying his gun, something straight out of a movie. But listen, it is unmistakable that from a distance, one can tell that this man is a person of color. And I'm not putting this out there as anything pejorative. I'm just saying it's an obvious observation. But even though it was clear for anyone who was not Helen Keller that this guy is a darker skin tone, CNN proceeded to, for several minutes on air as they're describing the mayhem, describing this suspect as someone who was likely white. It's just classic. It's resulted, of course, in a number of internet memes. For example, people putting up pictures of famous black actors such as Denzel Washington, Mr. T, etc., and saying that these people, according to CNN, are themselves likely white. So, fun stuff. Now, back to what is serious in all of this. Of course, there was a police officer shot and killed, a young police officer. He leaves behind a wife and two kids. His name is Didarul Islam. He's from Bangladesh, an immigrant. It's just absolutely devastating. And there was also a Blackstone executive killed, a mother of two herself, Wesley LePatner. She was a very successful, well-regarded, and award-winning executive there with Blackstone. And when I first saw Blackstone, I don't know if, Robbie, if you thought this, because, of course, Blackstone has been in the press quite a lot. A lot of negative stuff about Blackstone, even in conservative circles. Blackstone, of course, does a lot of things, but their real estate investment trust arm, and that's, by the way, where my understanding is this LePatner lady was the head of that organization or that group within the company. They're the ones that are buying up all the residential houses. You know, they're the ones that are getting, some of it's true. I mean, they go in and they pay, premium for homes and turn them into rentals. And in some areas, it's certainly contributing to ordinary working Americans getting priced out of home ownership. So I heard Blackstone as a potential target, and I immediately thought that this would be my first thought was it was a political, there's some political terrorism here involved. But it turns out, as of right now, what we know, and the situation is fluid, that this guy leaving behind a note about his CTE, about his brain injury, that he was rambling in the note about the NFL, according to reports. And it turns out the NFL's in the same building, and he went into the wrong elevator bank. Talk about having a brain injury. He literally goes into the wrong elevator bank, goes up, and instead of going to NFL headquarters, he goes to BlackRock. So, horrifying, all of it, whether he went to the right place or the wrong place. But it is interesting to understand the motive. Now, a couple of things I want to caution us all on at this stage, as we are less than 24 hours post-incident. We don't know much yet. Number one, I typically, and if you look at all these shootings, particularly the ones that occur in blue districts, in blue states and blue cities, and, where I just always think that the police look through things with a political lens. I don't want to necessarily spend too much time analyzing the description, the hearsay, right? The words of others looking at the note and telling us what that note says. Eventually we'll see the note and we'll know what it's all about. Now, in the meantime, because this is a news-driven show, I'm going to react to what we know or what we think we know. I hope that's fair. So in that sense, it seems that this young man, who is 27 years old, again, he's from Las Vegas, was carrying a CCW permit, by the way. A lot was made of this. I found out about this as I was leaving work. Got out. It was, again, on X. That's where all the news breaks, folks. I got to tell you, if you're not on X, get on X. I saw pictures of this guy's ID. He's CCW. And it was right when it was coming out that he was maybe from Nevada. And I see the Clark County CCW permit. I mean, hell, I've got one in my wallet. And my heart skipped a beat. Because, of course, now this is a story for those of you who are here in Las Vegas, as I am. It's a story that is a little bit closer to home. Another part of it that, sort of affected me is that there simply have not been to date. And Robbie, you've researched this. There have not been to date any mass shootings by a CCW permit holder. So that's okay. That's just a note. This would be, what's the definition, Robbie? Is it 8 victims? 4? So this would meet the definition. Currently, there are 4 victims, 4 deaths. Absolutely tragic. Now, does the CCW permit here in Nevada have any bearing on this case per se? And the quick answer is probably not. First off, well, I mean, what's a CCW permit? It's a concealed carry permit. Yeah, for concealed carry. I mean, you'd have to be like the big friendly giant to carry around an M4 concealed. I mean, that would be something. So that's not your concealed carry gun of choice, right? It's difficult to conceal it. The second thing, of course, is no reciprocity. So this guy carried a gun from Nevada, presumably purchased here in Nevada. I think that's a safe assumption to make if he's a resident of the state. Typically, to clear background checks and that kind of thing, you have to buy guns in your resident state or go through an FFL dealer in your state to get all the background checks done. So presumably he did that here. He then traveled across multiple states with it. I don't know what the gun laws are of these states. None of those gun laws prevented him doing what he did. He then open carried for a short period of time before walking in the building in New York City, in New York State, where I can tell you that is not allowed. So, yeah, I mean, when it comes to the gun control arguments that are occurring here, I want to get into this a little bit more after the break because that's where everybody goes right away. Different people have immediately begun to apply. Well, we need more gun control. We need the call for more restrictions because nothing bad is ever allowed to happen in the world. There always has to be some legislation that prevents bad things from occurring. When you have somebody who is wrong in the head, and I want to talk about the CTE thing too a little bit more because it's misunderstood. This guy apparently played football, thus, perhaps, if what we know about him is true, he had multiple head injuries, perhaps actually did have this trauma to his brain. He's not thinking clearly. And then the real question begins, should he have been permitted to begin with, one? And at any point down the road later, should the permit have been pulled? And would that have made any difference? Would that have resulted in him not having his guns or simply having his CCW permit revoked? Just because he had the permit on him at the time of the assault does not mean that CCW permit is what facilitated any of this. And for every law that he encountered along the way and broke, none of them stopped him. And that's the takeaway from this, unfortunately. But I do want to talk about these brain injuries too. It's just, people do not realize what a devastating and terrible thing is to be repeatedly knocked on the head or to suffer one single devastating blow. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right Show is brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Greetings and welcome to the What's Right Show, back behind the microphone here after a short break. Sam Mirejovsky here, yes, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, etc., etc. Of course, Nevada today, well, since last night, in national news because someone from Vegas went all the way to New York and killed 4 people. It's tragic. It's terrible. It's sad. What's also interesting to me is that apparently, according to police, the shooter left behind a note. As a former football star in high school, both here in Nevada and in California, he claims to have had CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy. There's a reason why we abbreviate that. Try saying encephalopathy 3 times. No, I'm not going to do it here. By the way, fun fact, if you have CTE, you can't say encephalopathy. Well, let me tell you, Robbie, why are you laughing? It's not funny. Sometimes, folks, I make jokes. Well, I say things that aren't intended as humor and come across this way. I can tell you this. As an injury attorney, I have had clients who have one single hit to the head in, let's say, a car accident or a slip and fall. Sometimes they don't even pass out. And this is what's wild. Over a period of time, it becomes apparent that they have suffered a traumatic brain injury, which is the broader term for this. TBI is also used. It's not exactly the same thing. CTE is a part of sort of the TBI family of injuries. And what I'm getting at is, here's how you find out that somebody has a TBI or has a CTE. Usually they can't self-report it. It's sort of like dementia, right? Typically, someone who has dementia doesn't quite realize that they have it. They feel they're confused, disoriented, whatever, but they just think that they're distracted or didn't get enough sleep or whatever. The people that notice are their loved ones, the people that they live with, maybe somebody at work. And I'll tell you what happens, and this is where we attorneys, the difference between, a good lawyer and a bad one is all in, honestly, folks, at the end of the day, how much you talk to your clients. It's very important to talk to your clients. It's what we do here, right? We talk to our clients because you'll start to feel out if there is something going on, right? And so you'll get, for example, when I have an accident case that I'm working on where there is someone who's hit their head, and I flag it for a TBI protocol, one of the things that we do is we talk to the spouse, we talk to the roommate, we talk to the parents, we talk to people that know this person and say, is there any change in behavior? And here are some of the hallmarks. You have changes in mood, okay? Logic, right? Processing information, making decisions and choices. All of a sudden, following a CTE, TBI type injury, you suddenly have people who are not, well, they've lost some of their common sense. They suddenly become liberal. Robbie, that was a joke. But it could be. I mean, in my case, if I suddenly come and start talking about being very liberal, you will be very worried. Now, let me give you, by this stuff is legit. Let me tell you, I don't know if you remember this. You remember this, Robbie. Some of you that have been astutely listening to this program may remember this, and I'll get a little bit personal here, if I may. I was a few years ago filming a commercial at the Silver Knights practice arena, so I was on skates, ice skates. Bad idea to begin with. And I was filming it, and I didn't have a helmet on. And I fell, and my head bounced off the ice. And I got a concussion, and I went to the ER, and I didn't have any brain bleed, and I think I'm fine, okay? But the concussion, the one concussion, okay, caused me to, I took it was the beginning of a long weekend. I think Monday was off, so we didn't have the show on Monday. Came back on Tuesday. And this little incident happened, I think, on Friday. So I come back on Tuesday to do a show. And sometimes when you're doing live radio, you get feedback into your ear. It's terrible. Something comes on, somebody presses the wrong button, something goes off on my computer. It's either me or the station or the op. It's never producer Robbie's fault, just for the record. But what happened to me is I had somebody start talking. I think it was another station that got fed into my ear. Well, another station from our Odyssey network right here in Vegas got fed into my ear. And normally I could say something like, whoa, I'm getting some feedback in my ear. Oh, geez, this is crazy, and I could, just deal with it because I'm a pro. I can handle it. My brain froze. My brain stopped working. I just went blank. And if you remember, we probably had minutes of dead air, and then they had to put a rerun on of a previous show. And I still feel terrible about this. It's one of my worst moments in radio of my life. And I've been on the radio a long time now. So imagine that's what you feel. Imagine that suddenly you're someone like you or me, where we're able to communicate, we're able to be verbal, we're able to everything. And all of a sudden your brain just goes, my brain shut down. Not good. That is what it's like to suffer from CTE all the time. So if that's what this guy was dealing with, then I can imagine he wasn't in good shape. So the next question is, right? So by the way, if you've ever had a slip and fall or an injury or anything like this, and you think that there might be an injury, a brain injury, go to the neurologist, get a referral from your doctor. Go. By the way, we have some very good neurologists at UMC here in Las Vegas, actually, some high level people. But go absolutely and get checked out. It's vital. And I push, all my clients that go through this, I say, listen, at worst case scenario, they say there's nothing wrong, but it's always important to get checked out. So I'm gonna now. Here's, I guess, the $1 million question. Everybody's asking this: should he have had the guns? Right? If his mind was, as I'm describing, literally going blank and white, should he have had the guns? And did the system fail us, right? Did the system not work as designed? Well, these are the interesting questions, right? So we'll get to that a little bit here right after the break. I got lots else to talk about, folks. Trust me. I want to cover the story because it's a big national story. It involves the Second Amendment, which is near and dear to my heart, and of course ties back to Vegas. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Well, I'll tell you my specific rule for why I don't name shooters, mass shooters. I don't give them any kind of notoriety, and particularly not when they are committing mass murder on behalf of some sort of manifesto or political purpose. I just think it encourages terrorism. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT, the What's Right Show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. That's my rule. Now, I'm going to go through an example here, talking about the traumatic brain injury, or CTE, that supposedly, or allegedly, I should say, the shooter yesterday in New York was suffering from. I'm going to use names here because it's far in the past. I don't know if you remember the tower shooting in Texas, okay? At the University of Texas Tower, Charles Whitman, in August of 1966, went on a shooting spree. 96-minute reign of terror, killed 13 people. And apparently he had a brain tumor, which was kind of somewhere in between his thalamus, hypothalamus, and it developed when they did the autopsy to the size of a pecan, which, as you know, is a larger nut. You wouldn't want that in your head. When he was 25, Whitman began complaining of headaches, a severe persistent pain he described as tremendous. And his suicide note also requested an autopsy to examine his brain, which, by the way, the shooters yesterday, apparently the note said, "Take my brain and look at it." You can imagine living with that kind of pain and the whiteouts and the lack of function that you have over time that I described before the break. You could see that would be a tremendous thing to live with. Now, not every person with the CTE goes on a mass shooting. How do I know that? Because it's a fact. It is. Lots and lots of people have TBIs. I have represented, for example, hundreds of injury victims who have had CTEs. Bad ones. Horrible brain injuries. I wouldn't wish some of their symptoms on my worst enemies. Not one of my clients killed anybody, okay? So here's the question, right? And everybody's talking now about gun control. Hey, what should we do? And I can't believe, oh my gosh, I can't believe the sheriff here in Las Vegas let this guy have a CCW permit. Now, you want to know what the mental health, and this all, look, it's not the sheriff's fault. Like, there are NRS rules. There's code sections related to background checks and screening for mental health stuff. Those are prescribed by law, so LVMPD in Clark County is required to follow state law on this. Now, here are the grounds to either deny or revoke an existing permit, right? So the permit, you have to not have any of these problems and to get the permit in the first place. And then second, the permit has to be revoked if any of these come up. If there is an adjudication of mental illness. So a judge needs to declare you incompetent or insane by a court in Nevada or another state or in the United States. Okay. Is there any evidence that happened? I don't think so. What about this one? Voluntarily or involuntarily admitted to a mental health facility within, not ever, but in the last 5 years. I don't know. There's no evidence of that. Maybe we're going to find out, but I don't see it. So then it's controlled substances, which I don't think means under, and it's tied to the U.S. Code 18 U.S.C. 922. I don't think that this means controlled substances means medication, prescribed medication. I think we're talking about a federal prohibited substances. This would be, it could even include marijuana because there's a federal prohibition against it. So what else? Liquor, if you use booze, habitually used intoxicating liquor or a controlled substance. Well, I mean, convicted of a DUI would be one way to prove that. Diversion program, specialty court program for alcohol or substance abuse, that would all work against you. Preceding 5 years again. So that's what we've got here. I don't see here, honestly, a code section that would require a doctor to disclose HIPAA protected. Again, this is federal law protecting the privacy of your all your health records, that would require your doctor to break HIPAA and send to the state a notification that you've got a CTE. I don't know. I mean, I just don't see it here. Now, this guy got one thing I saw here. He got this permit, I think, in 22, right? It's like 3 years ago. That's when he got his permit. So I don't know how far along the disease was at that point, if he was already suffering from the symptoms of it. But I don't know that anything here would prohibit or him getting the CCW or having the CCW revoked. I just don't see it, according to Nevada law. So my defense here is of the sheriff. Now let's talk about the CCW permit just broadly here. The guy doesn't need a CCW permit to carry a rifle because you can't conceal an M4. Also, just as an important point, this guy crossed however many states. What was this? His path? The path of destruction, although destruction happened at the end. He traveled through Colorado, Nebraska, New Jersey. He arrives in New York yesterday. It's a long trip. So you got all these different jurisdictions that he's going through. Each one has different gun laws. Did he care about any of these laws? And by the way, if they had revoked his permit, would it have been enough to revoke his gun ownership? Certainly not in Nevada. So that's another thing, right? I don't know. The CCW issue to me is a little bit of a red herring. It's not, so they took his permit. If they had taken his permit away, would any of this have happened? Of course it still would have happened. So this, according, by the way, again, this is another report here, New York Post, saying that the mass shooter was found with a note blaming the NFL and that he was, in fact, on his way to the NFL's headquarters there, or their offices in Midtown Manhattan. This is speaking of the brain. He writes, quote, "Study my brain, please. I'm sorry. Tell Rick I'm sorry for everything." I don't know. Have we gotten in touch with Rick? Who's Rick? It's sad. This is tragic. All of it. Is it the gun? There was a guy that went through Walmart the other day. We didn't talk about this, but he did an enormous amount of damage with a kitchen knife. We're going to ban kitchen knives? We're going to ban cars? Every month in Europe, someone named Abdul or Mohammed takes a tiny little crappy European microcar and drives it into a public place and kills people. We don't talk about it because, of course, we can't talk about the Islamists doing what they do in Western civilization, but, that happens. Nobody talks about banning Islam. Well, I do, but nobody talks about banning cars. It's always the guns. The guns are always the problem. Why is that? It just doesn't make, to me, it doesn't pass the logic test. It's frustrating. And the other thing, I always say this in these gun control debates, is you can't legislate bad from happening. And by the way, I'm going to talk about Cincinnati. There's this big beatdown, terrible fight caught on camera. Obviously, a woman there and her friend or husband, boyfriend, whoever it was, getting viciously beat by a group of individuals. And of course, there's a racial component to it. Cincinnati has. I'm going to get into this here, probably top of the hour, because it's a big story. Vivek Ramaswamy, our good friend, waded into it, had a great statement. Let me get into this next. We're going to talk about gun. Look at the damage that can be done. And I'm telling you, it's nasty, terrible, bad people are everywhere. And my preference, right, is I want law enforcement. I want tough penalties for crime. I want people to go to prison. I want police to be Johnny on the spot there and empowered by all of us to make arrests. To me, the solution, if you want to make the world safer, is you have more police and you give the police more support. And that support is not just financial, but it means also having district attorneys who will prosecute criminals, because there's nothing worse if you're a cop. You catch the bad guy, you risk your life to do it, and 10 seconds later, some woke George Soros-funded DA is letting that perp out on the street. That's a problem. And that we can do something about. But it's really funny that the same people who want gun control are the same people who are like, let the criminals out of jail. To me, that doesn't make any sense. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. here on News Talk 840 KXNT. So one of the things about speaking liberal, it's kind of like in Finding Nemo, where the little bluefish, Dory, I think is her name, she says, I can speak whale. Oh, well, I can speak liberal. Almost never does a liberal make a point or argue for an issue that is about the topic they're talking about. Let me give you an example, right, specific to this gun control thing. They want gun control because they say gun control is common sense and it will save lives. Let's raise your hand if you've heard that argument. All the time. Both my hands are up. I'm like, it's all I hear. It's common sense, Sam. It's just, you've got to know one less gun means one less chance at mayhem. Okay. So your argument is, I always turn this around. I said, so your argument is that you think everything needs to be done, even if it means burning the Constitution. Everything needs to be done for the purposes of public safety, right? For the end goal that more people are safe. Yes? Well, yeah, of course. Okay. So what do you think about cash bail? What do you think about mandatory life sentences for repeat offenders? Something, like they used to have in California. 3 times and you're out. 3 strikes rule. What do you think about that? Well, no. We got to be compassionate. Okay. What do you think about, I don't know, police? Well, we need community engagement. We need the police to look like us in the community, represent the community that they serve, and not be mean. We don't want the police. Okay. What about jails? Well, so wait a minute. You don't want to punish bad guys. People that actually have committed crimes, who have demonstrated, oftentimes through extreme violence, their nonconformity to the social contract, those people you want to release from jail. Do I understand you fully? And what do they say? They say, yeah, well, no. So this is really important, okay? The same people that are arguing that we should have an open border, The same people that brought us an open border across which God knows how many terrorists, how many mass murderers, legit criminals, people carrying guns, people in organized gangs that resemble really, state-funded terrorist cells. If we're talking about Trenderegua, for example, those people all flooded in the country over the last 4 years under the Otto Penn dictatorship. And the same people that are saying that's okay want to take your gun away. They want to take away my right to defend myself, my family, my home. Now, what's messed up about this? I'm back to speaking liberal, right? What speaking liberal is it's never what they're saying. They never mean what they're actually saying. They want us disarmed so we become victims. They want us disarmed so we are in need of them. They want that mayhem, that societal breakdown to occur in order to hasten the left-wing socialist revolution. And this isn't some conspiracy theory. It just is logical. It's what they want. I mean, either that or they all have CTEs. They're all brain dead. But I don't think that's the case. I legitimately am convinced and have become convinced over the last several years that the reason the same people that are anti-gun but pro-criminal is so that you and I live in fear. You and I have our safety diminished. You and I are brought to heel, and that we get to a point where it's something dystopian, like out of one of those Batman movies where, the criminals are running amok and nobody's safe and Gotham is coming down. Western society collapses, and out of that rubble, the socialist revolutionaries, the democratic socialists of America, read now basically the Democratic Party comes along and says, we are the saviors. And now we have all the power. You don't have anything. You live in rubble. You live in fear of your life. Screw you, Sam. Screw your family. Screw everybody. We are the state. We matter more than the individual. Stop me when any of this starts to sound familiar. And the left operates this way everywhere. They operate this way in Western Europe as well. I mean, it's what they do. So, the gun control argument to me has always been fundamentally phony. It is phony. It's a load of crap. I will listen to your pro-gun control argument when you tell me that somebody rapes a child, they are done. If somebody rapes a child, it is a mandatory life sentence. No bail. Nothing. You're never seeing the light of day. The key gets thrown away. Gone. If you burglarize a home, 25 years minimum sentence. You get prosecuted. One burglary. You enter someone's residence 25 years, and you do it a second time, it's life. You see where I'm going with this? We need to make criminals fear again. It's the exact opposite of what the left wants. Now, we're going to have bad things still happen. Car accidents will occur. People with brain injuries or cracked down on drugs or nuts are going to go out and do crazy things, do harm. You can take their guns away, they're going to figure out how to do harm with a kitchen knife. You take their knives away, they're going to figure out how to do harm with a car. You take their cars away, they're going to find a shovel or a pickaxe or whatever. They're going to do harm. I don't know. Practically, there's nothing really you can do about that. But you can stop the known criminals, the known societal contract breakers. You can stop them by removing them from the general population. Rapists should not be able to walk among us. Right? Goes to figure. And don't give me this, Trump is president. Shut up. Shut up. You know what not what I'm, oh my God. I can see, I'm going to get the email. I say something like this, Robbie, and then I get a bunch of emails from a bunch of idiots going, Trump is a racist. I hope you like Trump. All right. All right. Got myself distracted. We got to be tough on crime. The woke mind virus. A component of which is this sympathy that we give to criminals. This is a problem. And it is one of the greatest problems. It is one of the biggest, it's the problem that has had the greatest consequence on our society here in the US because we've let people loose on the streets who are absolutely doing us harm. Now, let's talk about Cincinnati. There was a beatdown. I'm going to describe what happened. I'm going to tell you, there's two sides to the story, unfortunately, a little bit. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, okay? But I'm going to tell you why this is, to me, a story about law and order, first and foremost. And just wait till you hear about this idiotic lady that is the chief of police there. Good heavens. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Don't go anywhere. I will be back after this. Live from the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada, Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right show, powered by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash, 702-820-1234. Offices in Nevada and California, because you deserve what's right. Friends, good to be with you here. Happy Tuesday. The week is underway. I heard a joke about a week that, Monday and Tuesday are so rough that's why the rest of the week is called WTF. Get it? Get it? It's a dad joke. Okay, moving right along. So, Cincinnati in the news. And perhaps, listen, I mean, this was, went viral over the weekend. Videos from Friday's Cincinnati Jazz Festival. It never got reported in the national news. And the reason for this is because the videos show white people being brutally pummeled by black assailants. One of them is a woman who was knocked out. Speaking of CTE and traumatic brain injuries, she may well have sustained one. These videos are difficult to watch. Now, let me just set the stage. I like to present a case because I'm a lawyer, so that's what I do. So let me present the case. I have here some fight footage. Now, I understand some of you are listening to the radio. This is the theater of the mind. Some of you have the Sam Cam because on Spotify, on YouTube, of course, you can see this. So I'll describe in real time as this footage is playing what is going on. So this is the first video that went viral over the weekend from Friday's Beatdown in Cincinnati. What you see here is a white guy on the ground getting stomped. His head, he's getting kicked, he's getting punched. There's 10 people. There's 10 people punching him, kicking him. Somebody just kicked him in the head. Curb stomped him, literally. There are black women, and here's a woman knocked out on the ground. She's passed out. I think somebody just reached over and... This is terrible. She has blood coming out of her nose. This is awful. Here's another video.
Sleep him again. Boom.
Oh, this guy just gets sucker punched, back of the head. I think this is the guy later that got kicked. He's passed out. Maybe it's a different guy. All of these bystanders here, African Americans, filming this on their phones, cheering it on. Just telling you what the videos show. Now, there apparently was some words exchanged between the white guy and a black guy. The white guy does open hand slap the black guy. Then the black guy, with his friends, go and punch the guy from behind. I'm just telling, these are, so far as we have them, the undisputed facts. Then a woman is sucker punched and knocked out cold. Another man is sucker punched and his head hits a car, and then he gets kicked while he's on the ground. I'm going to tell you, first and foremost, when I watch this, I think there is no longer a fear in America of prosecution of the police. I think this is the result of years-long attacks by the left on policing and on law and order. It is time that criminals fear the law again, right? None of these people had it go through their brains that this, 10 people attacking one person is okay. By the way, is this isolated? The whole internet right now is filled with videos of these mass fights. Yes, it happens on cruise ships, for Pete's sake. I mean, a little Carnival right now. Carnival cruise. Go on a Carnival cruise, you're going to end up in the middle of a beatdown. It's like there's like 40% chance. You're more likely to have a beatdown on a Carnival cruise than see any sea life in the ocean. Okay? This is bad. Now, what's even worse is a press conference given by the police chief in Cincinnati. Now, this woman, those of you who cannot watch the video, let me set the stage a little bit. This woman is a dowdy, middle-aged, fat frump. She doesn't look like she could pass a fitness test to save her life. Why is this important? Because you're police, for Pete's sake. You're supposed to be able to chase bad guys. And if you're the chief, you have to set us up an example for each and one of your officers. I'm incensed by this. And I'm even more incensed by her making a big to-do in this press conference about there's another side of the story. And I'm mad at you bad people in social media and in the reporters not showing both sides of the story.
Another topic I want to cover real quick. Social media and journalism and the role it plays in this incident. And yes, guys, that's you. That is you. The social media, the post that we've seen, does not depict the entire incident. That is one version of what occurred. At times, social media and mainstream media and their commentaries are a misrepresentation of the circumstances surrounding any given event. What that does, that causes us some difficulties in thoroughly investigating the activity and enforcing the law. Because what happens, that social media post and your coverage of it distorts the content of what actually happened. And it makes our job more difficult.
Translation. Hi, I'm a DEI hire. I'm only in my position because I'm incompetent. Yes, but I'm a woman. I got this job because I'm a woman. I'm here to put a soft face on the police. We care about how the police look, not on how the police police. So here in Cincinnati, the city has decided that I am in charge. I'm out of shape, I'm large, and I'm in charge. And I'm going to lecture you people in the media. How dare you show videos of people getting attacked, beaten? This is, well, do you know what a slap is? An open-handed slap is an assault. It is the harmful, it's just a legal definition, harmful, offensive, or, it's either harmful or offensive touching of another without privilege or consent. There, I got lost in my own legal definition. Very simple. It can be a touch. If it's unwanted and unlawful, it becomes an assault. That's what a slap is. Unless you're one of those champions that like knock people out with a slap is not attempted murder. 10 people kicking somebody in the head when they're on the ground and perhaps already unconscious is attempted murder. You know, it's funny, again, when we talk about the left, I have to digress here. We talk about the left. You ever notice how they never want to know what happened in the 10 minutes of video before a police officer fatally shoots a perp? They never care. It's what happened in that instant. Never mind that the police officer was 10 minutes of dealing with a complete lunatic and was fearing for his life. None of that's relevant. They want to know what happened in the moment. And here, where the law literally doesn't care, it does not care. Is that person a threat? You can only use deadly force against someone if they are an imminent threat to your life or perhaps to stop a commission of a rape. Depends on the jurisdiction. And here, this guy's on the ground. He is incapacitated and they continue to kick him. Every single one of the animals that did this ought to be rounded up and prosecuted for attempted murder. Simple as that. But she's like, maybe you guys are showing the wrong videos and da, 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 da. I'm not dismissing that the white guy picked a fight, maybe said some terrible things. Doesn't matter. You don't get to kill somebody or try to kill somebody because they insult you or because they slap you. They pull a gun on you, you can use lethal force. They come charging at you with a knife, you can use lethal force. If they're in your house, they broke in and seem to be a threat, you can use lethal force. Some jurisdictions, well, they're in your house, they're dead. None of that's the case here. So someone, one of these reporters, correctly goes, okay, well, let me ask about the officers and then also asks an important question about, well, what do you mean by these videos? Listen to how this idiot, chief of police, this fat DEI slob, DEI worthless hag answers this.
Go ahead, right here.
Thank you. 2 questions. Where were the nearest officers?
In the central business section. They were working. They were both in vehicles, and like I said, they had to maneuver through the traffic.
My second question is, you had said social media, news media distorted the content of what actually happened. What exactly was distorted? I understand that there was multiple views of the video, but exactly what led up to this? I mean, what was distorted?
Yeah, so I think by the irresponsibility with social media is it just shows one side of the equation quite frequently without context, without factual context. And then people run with that. And then it grows legs and it becomes something bigger that we then have to try to manage as part of the investigation.
Context? I'm watching an attempted murder occur. I'm seeing deadly force used. And you're telling me you're missing the context. Shh. This makes me ill. By the way, if you think okay, some of you are, I can see, getting a little agitated. Emails are popping up about me calling her fat and DEI. Just wait. There's a story in Newsweek about this lady from a few months ago. Wait till I tell you this. Federal civil rights lawsuit against her. Teresa Tetke, I think is how she pronounces her last name. Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Hi, Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Feeling feisty today, folks. Forgive me, talking about the beatdown that occurred in Cincinnati on Friday at the Jazz Festival. I think it was a jazz thing. By the way, the police chief there, Teresa Tetke, said that there were 2 officers on patrol in the area. There were thousands of people out on the streets. They knew that this event was happening. Why weren't there more officers? Isn't that interesting? By the way, there could be an answer for this. Back in May, Newsweek published an article about Ms. Thetke, the DEI overweight police chief in Cincinnati, who instead of getting up and talking about what a disaster this was and how embarrassing it is that her city didn't respond fast enough and that people were hurt, almost killed, probably permanently injured, disabled from this attack, she then rants about the media only telling one side of the story. Anyway, this lady here, according to Newsweek, says that she's under federal investigation. 4 veteran members of the Cincinnati Police Department filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the city and police chief Teresa Thetke, alleging workplace discrimination in personnel assignments and promotions. Now, what's this all about? Well, the officers claim they were bypassed for preferred positions in favor of minority and female lieutenants, despite meeting the qualifications. Well, this is nice. Does any of this sound familiar? You know, when are we going to learn? Remember that LA fire chief? The Lesbo chief, as I like to refer to her as, later got canned, not for being incompetent, but for criticizing the mayor. Remember her? LA burned to the ground. What was she talking about? Oh, we're going to have some women show up and be firefighters and minorities and ha 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 ha. What about the New Orleans terrorist attack where there were no blockades, even though they've spent taxpayer funds on building them? They were down. Who was the police chief? Oh, another DEI hire. You know, the woman that looked like a little shrew. She looked like one of those shrunken little things with a giant hat. Okay? Oh, Black Hawk helicopter pilot where the male trainer tells her, no, you're too high, you're too high. I'm going to disregard you. Don't mansplain to me. 67 people died. DEI kills. And you know, sometimes in these shows, I like to do a through line. You know this, those of you who follow and listen on a regular basis. Here's the through line. It's intentional damage the left wants done. By the way, these are what's important to the left. Patronage. Giving out goodies. A job like a lieutenant position that has better pay, more prestige, better retirement, nicer office, perks, blah, blah, blah. That's something of value. We need to give this to people that we can then count on owing us political favors. We can't just give this to the best person. Police chief, we need somebody in there who's going to kiss our rear ends politically. Oh, I know. Teresa Thetke. That's who. We're not going to give this to a man, a white male who maybe would be much more qualified to actually run a department and have people be safe in the city of Cincinnati. Hell no, we don't want that. Besides, as an added bonus, after we install this incompetent boob to be the chief, we have a little mayhem, a little trouble in the streets, a little chaos. And what we can say is, look, we need greater government powers. We need... Wait, don't look at me like that, Robbie. What did they do? What did they do during COVID? What was COVID? COVID was the liberals' left's wet dream come true. It was magical. There was an emergency, a national health crisis. So gone is your right to go to church. Gone is your right to go to work. Gone is your right to have a job, to go to make a living, to be by your dying mother's bedside. Gone. It's all gone. It's gone. These people live for emergencies and crises. They live for that. Why? So that they can get Look, it's not even a conspiracy, really. I mean, it's just a plan. This is what they always intended to do. So I'm just telling you this is how it is. All right. So this story, by the way, Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance commented on this. And I know we're just up against the break, Robbie, so I don't want to be conscious of our time. So his comments, well, we don't have time to play this. But let me tell you this. Here's the statement by Vivek Ramaswamy. I spoke to Holly earlier today. This is the woman who was assaulted on the ground, the video that we watched. She's a single working mom who went to a friend's birthday party. It's unconscionable that there were no police present in that area of Cincinnati. Hardworking Americans shouldn't have to worry about their safety when they have a good time in our cities. Holly said not a single local or state official had yet reached out to her as of this afternoon, other than one police detective. This is exactly right. This is the best part. Leftists like to lecture about systemic injustice while thugs turn our cities into war zones. I'm done with their excuses. Vivek Ramaswamy is running for the governor of Ohio in a position to make some changes that would prevent incidents like this from happening in the future in the city of Cincinnati. We wish him well. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk at 840. Back in a moment. All right, friends, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. I'm going to play this J.D. Vance clip. This just came out a little bit ago yesterday, excuse me. In Canton, Ohio, he was visiting a factory. I'm playing this in the context of, if you're just joining us, there's a Cincinnati beatdown captured on video. Well, the thrust of it is this. Apparently, words are exchanged between a black man and a white man. The white man slaps the black man, open hand, walks away. Black man comes up behind him, sucker punches him, knocks him out. Then a mob attack at least two other people, causing significant injuries. A woman got sucker punched in the back of the head, is laying unconscious on the ground. This is animal behavior. These people all have to be prosecuted. These people all deserve big prison sentences. Will they get it? Well, Cincinnati's a blue city, and they like to let criminals roam free, particularly if they are part of a protected class. I hate to be so blunt about it, but that's how it is. Now, Vance spoke eloquently about this yesterday, as facts of this were still scarce, and I think I like what he says here.
I don't know the full context. I don't know how the fight started. But the one part that I saw that was really gruesome is you had a grown man who sucker punched a middle-aged woman. And where I come from, at least, when you have a grown man who sucker punches a middle-aged woman, that person ought to go to jail for a very long time. And frankly, he's lucky there weren't some better people around, because they would have handled it themselves. But if they're not going to handle it, the cops in Cincinnati, the law enforcement, you've got to prosecute people. We've had way too much lawlessness on the streets of great American cities. How many of you all have wanted to go to downtown Akron or downtown Canton or downtown Columbus for a meal, but you're worried because the local authorities in these big cities have allowed lawlessness to run wild? We have got to make great American cities safe again for families and children. If you want to take your wife or your children out for a meal, you shouldn't be worried about street violence. And the only way to destroy that street violence is to take the thugs who engage in that violence and throw their asses in prison.
I don't know. That sounds pretty good to me. Also, whenever I hear him talk, I always think, next president of the United States. I don't know. I just feel good about it. He's doing everything right, folks. Time will tell. Just putting it out there. Law and order matter. And it isn't a racial issue, although this was obviously, to me, it seems pretty nakedly racially motivated. I don't know, just kind of based on what I'm looking at. But it's not a matter of race. Every person, regardless of their race, their gender, who they like to shtup, what gender they think they are, Doesn't matter. Every person in this country deserves to live in safety and to walk safely on the street. And it is the government's response. It's the one fundamental thing. The government fix the roads, okay? Maintain public order, and then get the hell out of my life. That's what I want. And by the way, so Vivek Ramaswamy running for governor there in Ohio, and you know, I imagine he's going to do pretty well. The current governor there is a Republican, just rhino to the max, right? DeWine, a total wet noodle. Loser. Gosh. Speaking of governors, you know, I didn't have time to get into it yesterday. I teased it. I said I was going to get to it. I didn't get to it. I'm sorry. But yesterday, AAA Ron Ford re-announced his candidacy for the Nevada governorship. And right on cue, because by the way this works is he had sat down with the reporters at the New York Times, right on cue, the New York Times put out a piece timed to coincide with the great announcement by our Attorney General here in Nevada that he was running for governor. Now, the problem is, where do I start? 12/12. I remember this date. Middle of December of last year. Aaron Ford announces he's running for governor. He's our Attorney General. Everybody knows, worst kept secret in town. We all knew he was running. Blah, 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 blah. He announces a run, and it goes over like what? Lead balloon is how I describe it. Everybody bored out of their gourds. He is not an exciting candidate. Nobody gave a rip. And so 7 months went by, 7.5 now, and he decided that his campaign needs a little razzle-dazzle. He's not fundraising. Things are sluggish. So he does a sit-down with the New York Times. He gets the congressional delegation, the Democrats, right? Cortez Masto, Horsford, Titus, get it behind him and say, oh, we're supporting you. We've got our, you know. So the endorsement, right? Because it's going to be a fight in the Democratic primary. The presumption is that Ford is going to win the primary. Now, there is this just ridiculous liberal myth. I can't, it's wishful. You can't blame the Democrats for being disenchanted right now. Trump's out there kicking ass. I mean, donkeys, obviously. He's doing great. Trump is killing it. Okay. The Democratic Party is, right, it is, what, 30% approval rating, like the lowest ever? Okay. And in the midst of this, publications like the New York Times want to go, oh, the most vulnerable governor in America is Joe Lombardo. Nevada's a purple state, blah, 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 blah. The usual tripe. None of this is real. Monday, Channel 8, great station here in town, reports this on the Morning Consult poll about Lombardo's popularity rating. Okay, don't trust me. Trust Channel 8.
A new Morning Consult poll takes a look at approval ratings for senators and governors nationwide. You're looking at the numbers right there for Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo. He polls right now with 53% approval, 32% disapprove of his performance.
Sound pretty good? Sounds pretty good to me. How much did that go up by? A lot. It's up 21%, in fact, since the last poll. This is, what I mean, I saw that, by the way, if you actually read the New York Times piece about all this, the headline is like, could it happen? It could happen, you know, Aaron Ford. And then you read the body of the article and you realize that there's a lot of headwind, what they're calling it, headwind, that he will face trying to unseat Lombardo. Aaron Ford, all he has been doing is fighting Trump on immigration, fighting the administration on downsizing the government. He's been using our taxpayer money to launch attack after attack on Trump. He was a little, gosh, I want to say the word, little sycophant, little ass-kissing sycophant to the Biden administration. And Aaron Ford, the worst part about it is he is such a stupid guy, is not a smart person. My prediction, forget the poll. I don't even need the poll. My prediction is Aaron Ford wins the Democratic primary because the Democrats are going to rally around him. He's an African-American guy and he's attorney general. He's proven he can win. He's tall. Somebody described him to me as good looking. I don't understand it. Plus, it's weird to me that he insists on people calling him Aaron. I was talking about this today with Alan Stock, Vegas at 8. As we do talk every Tuesday morning, Aaron, because Alan kept stuttering the A's, and I said, Alan, you have to explain this to people. So that's what he does. I mean, any normal person say, my name's Aaron. Spell Aaron, R-O-N, right? Aaron. No, he refers to himself as the Aaron. I'm going to mention this again. I have it on good authority that basically every one of his big donors, the people that were behind him for the AG race, who got him into politics, those are people that are the big heavyweights, Democrat heavyweights in the state. Every one of them told him, do not run. Don't run. Don't do it. People even offered him incentives not to run. So what did he do? He ran anyway. He's got it's the hubris of this. I don't think Nevada is going back towards Sisolak. By the way, that's one to watch. Sisolak may re-enter the fray. A lot of people now that's not good either. Yeah, I know this. Of course. I mean, Rob, you don't have to tell me I'm not a Sisolak fan. There is another. There's another low IQ individual who we were blessed to run the affairs of our state once upon a time. Mr. What is Gavin Newsom doing? That was Sisolak during COVID. It was like playing with a Ouija board. He was like moving around. What's Newsom? Oh, Newsom's okay. Where Newsom's this? I heard that the one time that Sisolak got really confused is when Newsom closed the beaches. Like Sisolak didn't know what to do. Beaches. Well, I got to close some beaches. Yeah. So poor Lake Mead. Anyway, Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. I'll be back in a moment. Greetings, friends. Welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here, News Talk 840 at What's Right Sam. Follow me on Twitter, now referred to as X. It's the new name. You got to get with the times. Okay, at What's Right Sam on X. And of course, my email, sam@whatsrightshow.com. So, yesterday, I know I talked about the trade deal out of the European Union. I need to just do a quick follow-up here. I have a lot of friends in Europe. Robbie, I haven't even told you this yet. I have been fielding calls. But you heard me the other day on the phone, right? I've been fielding calls like mad in the last 48 hours, let's say. Since Ursula von der Leyen, the presidente of the EU, crapped the bed in her negotiations with Trump and gave Trump, us, right, the United States, a 15-0 deal, meaning 15% tariffs on European goods coming to the U.S., so net revenue for us, 15%, 0 for products leaving the U.S. going to Europe. The calls I am getting, I have a lot of friends, folks, that hate the EU, okay, that are conservative, politically very conservative, love Trump, and they are beside themselves. They don't hate Trump. They're not mad at Trump. They're like, Trump's doing what he's doing for you, but how could you do this to us? Oh my God, this is so unfair. I have had 10 calls like that, Robbie, just since last night. Texts galore, right? A lot of my European friends freaking out. I said yesterday that when the history books are written about Trump, that he may very well be the deciding factor to the dissolution of the European Union. There's a great little throwaway moment from the All In podcast. This is at the Hill and Valley Forum on Wednesday, when Lutnick, our commerce minister, was telling this anecdote about his meeting with the Polish prime minister. Listen.
I was in Poland on a mission for the government, and the prime minister of Poland chases me down and says, "What did I do to America to be tier 3?" And I was like, "I thought you were part of Europe." You know, like I didn't understand what it could possibly be the issue. So I think the answer is ally or not,
right?
Cluster size and who controls it or not. I think once you sort of wrestle with those ideas, and anybody who has ideas along those lines and you want to come and talk to us about it, because this is really the thinking right now, and we're sort of debating that right now.
Right. You want to be a part of Europe? You want to be part of this EU bureaucracy? By the way, this is the same bureaucracy that is terrorizing American businesses. This is the same bureaucracy that is constantly waging war against Microsoft and against any tech monopoly that the U.S. has, and Apple. I mean, I'm not here to defend Meta or Amazon, but you know how many countries Amazon can't go into in Europe because of regulation? F these people, okay? Up yours. You want the benefits of being in Europe, the same organization that has been a thorn in our side. Good. You get to sync with Europe as well. Seems only fair. So I think, you know, I could see a lot of countries going, hey, maybe this EU membership isn't great, because even though Keir Starmer is a complete moron, he got a better deal. He got a 10% deal, not a 15% deal. So all the people that were like, well, Brexit, well, we should have been part of the EU, are going in Great Britain, oh my gosh, our deal is 5% better, literally 5% better than the deal that the EU got. If we had still been in the EU, we couldn't have negotiated our own deal. Now, why does this matter to us? It is yet another example of why sovereignty matters. The globalists want to turn us here in the U.S. into a vassal state of the globalist blob. We aren't that. We are a sovereign nation. Our sovereignty is important. Our borders matter. Our independence matters. And I think it matters for Poland. I think it matters for Germany and the Czech Republic and Great Britain. I'm fine with all that. I believe in national sovereignty. I don't like, as a general rule, organizations that usurp that take it away. Now, I did get an email. I'm going to respond to Steve here, because I got an email yesterday saying, "What? But what do you mean trade imbalance? Trade imbalance, Sam? There's where Because, of course, van der Leyen there, the president of the EU, said, well, we're giving the U.S. zero because there's been a trade imbalance. And the comment that I had here, I don't have the email in front of me, basically was that there may have been a trade imbalance because we bought more stuff from them, but there wasn't unequal tariffs. And I have to say, this isn't exactly true. You know, and I looked at it, you know, so, yeah, by the way, European cars shipping to the U.S. historically were at 2.5%, and U.S. cars shipped to the EU were at 10%. That's a 7.5% delta. And then there was all the funny VAT tax math. Nobody talks about this. What's the VAT tax? Oh, gosh, it's like sales tax in Europe. Value added tax. I don't know. There's no value added by this tax, by the way. It's a misnomer. But the VAT, let's say it's 20%. It's a big number. And like in France for cars, it's 20%. Do you know that the VAT is, if it's a car that is made in France, is charged to the manufacturer and embedded in the price of the vehicle. If it is an import, they charge the VAT on the full invoice for the car, which includes the shipping fee and the tariff. I mean, you have to be a math genius to know now you have compounding percentages and monies. Now, all of a sudden, that product is much more expensive, not just by the 7.5% imbalance in tariff rates, but also based on the way the VAT is calculated. It could be $8,000 more for a vehicle. Now, ask yourself this. If you're on the fence, and I'm speaking to you, Steve, but everybody broadly, if you're on the fence about, was this deal fair? I can't believe bully Trump. Ask yourself, how many Europeans decided to buy a European car because it was 5,000 euros less than an American car, comparable American car? I guess I'll turn the question over to you in a different way. Would a $5,000 difference in cost determine what car you purchase? I think the answer is yes, it would. So that's what takes us to, where we are with this. And every European country has to be thinking right now, God, why are we part of this loser organization? NATO has a role. Joint defense, right? I understand. Band together for the purposes of defending the continent. I'm a pro-NATO guy. But, this bureaucracy in Europe and turning it into this, this faux mega state that just brings about nothing but mediocrity. And all the Europeans go, oh my gosh, I can't believe they got this mediocre, this terrible result. Yeah, they've been mediocre from the beginning. So this has been just beautiful to watch. By the way, Trump cut off Starmer yesterday in a press conference, literally mid-sentence. You got to watch. I'm going to end with this. Wow, this is just so funny.
You mentioned Canada. I think you're trying to find a divide between us that doesn't exist. We're the closest of nations, and we had very good discussions today, but we didn't discuss Canada.
Thank you. Please. Go ahead. Go ahead, yes.
That's enough. Stop talking. I think he was cutting off the members of the press, but it came off as cutting off Keir Starmer, and it was just delightful. Why are we mad? We have a president who's being robust. He's being strong. This is good. This is how it ought to be. And we're getting results for America. You got a $600 billion, one-time payment from Japan just to do trade with us. These are great things. All right, I'll be back tomorrow. I'll see you then. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT.